Welcome to the Pistons Fanatic. I'm your host, Dave Dalton, and I'm excited to share my passion and perspective of our Detroit Pistons as we go on this fantastic voyage together. I've been a diehard Piston fan since the days of Dave Bing and Bob Lanier. I've also been the varsity basketball coach of a very successful program in northern Michigan. I want to thank all of you for listening. Please subscribe if you haven't already and click on that little thumbs up thing on your computer. We're about to talk about how the Magic's acquisition of Desmond Bane, they just made this blockbuster trade for Desmond Bane with the Memphis Grizzlies, and how that's going to impact the Pistons offseason and the Eastern Conference. So the Magic traded Desmond Bane for KCP and Kole Anthony and 4 unprotected first-round picks. Well, the first-round pick this year is going to be number 16, and then next year's pick is going to be I don't quite get where it's going to be yet. It's going to be a pick swap. Maybe it could be Phoenix's pick or it could be Washington's pick. I don't know how that works out. But anyway, the next 2 picks are going to be Orlando picks. And Orlando is counting on being a really good team once they have this big four they're going to have with they're going to have Desmond Bane, Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner, and Jalen Suggs, and that's 4 awfully good players, and they're counting on they're going to be this winning team, and so their picks aren't going to be that they're unprotected, but they're unlikely to be in the lottery. They're counting on being in the late teens and 20s and stuff like that. So even though it sounds like a lot to give up for Desmond Bane, it's still, unless they fall off the face of the earth and something really bad happens and they have really bad records, it's not going to be that high of picks. So anyway, they're also taking on KCP's contract, which is pretty big, and so the Magic are getting rid of that. So that's part of the reason why they're getting almost like one first-round pick just for taking off KCP's Kentavious Caldwell-Pope's contract. He had a very disappointing year this year with Orlando. They thought he was going to be the Magic for their team because he was always a good three-point shooter, and he's this veteran presence that had won 2 championships, but that wasn't the case. He really wasn't very good this year. Kole Anthony carried them when they had some injuries. He had some tremendous games for the Magic in 30-point games and helped them win games when Banchero and Franz Wagner were injured at different times. And so, he's not nothing, but yeah, anyway, so it's just fascinating. They're going all in. The Magic are going all in. And so this is going to be, it's a wild start already to this. Everybody is anticipating. The rumors are that from most NBA insiders and from what they're hearing from general managers, that this is going to be a wild trade season. And this offseason is going to be, crazy. So this is a pretty shocking start. Nobody saw this one coming. But there's other things. So teams like Orlando now are seeing, Tatum's out for the year. Celtics are going to have to sell off some players because they're too far over the cap. The East is wide open, everybody's saying. Cleveland was the best team, but they kind of disappointed. They might be making a trade. They got Garland is injured. He's going to miss part of the beginning of the season if they don't trade him. And he's still going to miss part of the beginning of the season with his toe surgery. And so everybody's saying this is wide open. And, of course, the Pacers are showing that they're a real team. And so, but everybody thinks that there's a chance. And so that's one of the reasons Orlando jumped in. Is that going to be the reason the Pistons are going to, and other teams are going to make trades and try to really improve their stock? But, the West is so tight and so tough that Western teams got to really make moves if they want to compete. So that's another reason. But then the salary cap is always a reason with the new collective bargaining thing that teams have to try to get under the caps or the different aprons. And so a lot of moves are going to be made. Even you're going to be able to get good deals almost because teams are trying so hard to get their finances in order. So yeah, anyway, it's surprising. It was a big surprise today, but Desmond Bane is a great player. So here's the thing that the Pistons I want to do. So how is this going to affect the Pistons? Are they going to make the big trade? Are they going to make a minor trade? I've always been saying repeatedly, I think they're going to make a significant move, not necessarily as blockbuster as this trade, but I think I will still say that what I want them to get is a power forward, a 4 that can shoot the 3 and thrown out the cheapest one, who I love, is Jake LaRavia, and I talked about him last time. 23 years old, 6'8", but he can shoot it, he can defend. If you watch, Bryce Simons had a great video on his YouTube channel for Motor City Hoops and showing how he plays. He's so smart. He moves without the ball really well. Excellent passer, excellent, and he believes he's a really good defender. So I would like him. What are the next moves for the Grizzlies? Everybody's wondering. Everybody in the NBA. The Grizzlies are they going to start to try to tear down their team? So are they going to trade Jaren Jackson Jr.? Are they going to trade Ja Morant? Who knows? Are they going to could trade Santi Aldama, who's we could make a deal with him, a sign and trade with him. So yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see what happens. My other people I mentioned besides them are Jabari Smith Jr. and Naz Reid. So Naz Reid's 25, Jabari Smith Jr. is 22, and Santi Aldama's 24, and like I said, LaRavia's 23. So we get somebody that's on our timeline who's not too expensive. They think that Naz, he could end up being like 20 million a year, and we would be happy to get a 25-year-old that can do all that he can do. But we would get LaRavia way cheaper. We could get him somewhere like 8 million, and will he start? Maybe not. Maybe if we keep Tobias, then he comes off the bench. But he can get better. He's continually got better. And I will go back to mention that he his per 36 was 13 points, 7.5 rebounds, 5 assists, 49%, and 44% on threes last year when he played for Memphis. So that's a guy. And again, Aldama, I talked about his last game against Oklahoma City. He had 23 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, 9 for 13, and 5 for 7 on threes. And he's 6'11". And so Jabari Smith Jr. is 6'11" and can shoot. Naz Reid 6'9", and so those guys can all flop. And if you want to play small ball, they can all play center. So I'm willing to overpay, just like you could say the Magic overpaid. But what is overpaying? So for Jake LaRavia, if somebody's willing to pay him, the Kings can only pay him $5 million. Would we pay him $9 million? I would. Maybe, and they could, especially when you get down to these guys that aren't making as much. $9 million is quite a bit over $5 million, but it's still very little money. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that. But I just, like I said, I think that the Magic are in it to win it. They got those 4, Bane, Paolo, Franz, and Suggs are really good. If Suggs can get, he was injured last year, and he was really shooting the last year he played. He's shooting the 3 really well. Their team and their coach, and they play tough defense, or they were one of the toughest defensive teams in the league. But they couldn't shoot, and Bane is a lights out shooter. He played 68 games last year, 32 minutes a game, averaged 19 points, 5.3 assists, 6 rebounds, 48% from the floor, 39% on threes, 90% on free throws. He averaged, out of all the players in the Western Conference, he was third for, if you take and add up points per game, rebounds per game, and assists per game. The only 2 players that averaged more points, assists, and rebounds together were Jokic and LeBron. So he's more than even just a shooter. So yeah, he's going to make a big difference. But will they make available Jaren Jackson Jr.? I know some Piston fans wanted him. How many draft picks would it take? Again, we can say, like Orlando, I know, is thinking that our picks in the future, you can only trade every other year's picks. I don't want us to do this. I don't want us to just mortgage and give 4 first-round picks for Jaren Jackson Jr. I would be opposed to that. That can handcuff you. Things go wrong. You think you got a good team, and then injuries and different things can happen. So I wouldn't do that. But I'm saying that I'd be interested in trading up to 2 if I got the player that I wanted. Like I said, Jabari Smith Jr. The rumors are, KD is down to 3 teams: the Spurs, and who else is there? The Spurs, the Rockets, and I think Miami Heat. I don't see what Miami Heat has to trade. Everybody talks about trades all the time. Miami Heat, if they trade, one of their good players, they won't have enough left to compete and be a great team. So I can't see him wanting to go there. I just don't see how you can win a championship because they would have to give up assets to get him. They don't have that many first round picks like Houston, and the Spurs have extra picks that they can trade. And so, I would think that he's going to go there. But anyway, my point was that if Houston traded for him, there would be not minutes for Jabari Smith, so maybe they would try to see what they could get for him. He's up for a, his rookie contract to be extended. They might not want to do that with the money, and again, they still have so many players that are Tari Eason. So I mentioned in my last podcast that I would take Jabari Smith or Tari Eason, whichever one they wanted to give us for the best price. But they have so many players that they have to pay and play that they might find one of those guys expendable. So, and I think that are the Grizzlies just going to completely blow it up and end up like that's what Oklahoma City did at one point. They blew it up. They tanked for a couple years, even with Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, and they just stockpiled all these picks. And they would even trade picks for more picks. And they just, now they're in the driver's seat. They can make any trade they want. I will say this interesting thing about the Naz Reid thing. I was reading something on ESPN, and they said that the two best potential landing sites for Naz Reid, and this wasn't not a Piston writer, were back to the Timberwolves or to the Pistons. So that I found that interesting because he is in the archetype of the player that we want. Yeah, I want that power forward. The dream. I know Ku Kahil on the Locked On Pistons. He talked about Trey Murphy III, and I've been saying for 3 years on this podcast that he's my player, even before he got to be as good as he is now, and even before he just got paid. But he's 25, 6'8", and he averaged 26 points, 21 points, excuse me, 5 rebounds, 3.5 assists, 45%, and 38% on threes. And his contract is, here's the thing again about Bane. Bane's contract, he's 6'5", he's young, and he's locked in. So he's going to get paid. Let's see, where is it? 36 million next year, 39 the next year, 42 the next year, and 44 the next year. So he's signed through 2029. So you give up these assets, you're getting a guy that's a great player in his prime that fits the exact need that you have the most. So that's where I'm saying that where you go all in and make a big swing. And so Trey Murphy obviously would be that. But again, like Koo said, I'm in complete agreement. They will never do that trade. He's too valuable that nobody's going to want to, they would have to give up so much for him. I may give up Ivy, who I love, and Stu, who I love, and 2 first-round picks. Just, that's not equal value, but that's what you would have to do to get him. But he's just what we need. And he signed for 25, 27, 29, and 31 million. And he signed through the 29 season. So you got him for a long time. You got him in your prime. He perfectly fits exactly what you need. So, but we'll just see what happens. I will throw out this Miles Turner, who everybody wants. And I had a person saying, on some social media that how Duran's no good and that Duran's capped out what he's going to be. And I think he's 21, but guy averaged a double. He shot 60% from the floor. He was an incredible passer. And so we need a stretch 5, but name them. List all the stretch 5s that are available. Miles Turner. I know people say Lopez. I don't want Lopez. He's way past his prime. He can shoot threes and he can block some shots, but he's huge. But I'm not signing him. He's just too old, and he's heading in the wrong direction. But anyway, Turner is in the playoffs. He struggled. He shot really poorly, and he's one of the best 3-point shooting bigs. And maybe this is just, he's like a 36% 3-point shooter, but he There's just rare. There's just not that many of them. So you're going to replace Duran with who? How many centers are there? Again, how many centers are there that are available, and how much would they cost that the Pistons possibly could get, and that not every other team is going after? So it's just easy to say, just get rid of Duran, but they're just, who are you going to replace him with? So yeah. Anyway, I got an episode coming up pretty soon. It's going to be about, what do we sign Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren for? What would we offer them? And what I think would be a good offer. We'll see. We'll talk about that and the repercussions, or whether we wait and we see if we let them play next year and go into restricted free agency. But anyway, wild start to the trade season and free agency. And I think, like I said, I think it's going to be exciting. I think the Pistons are going to be in there taking some swings. So stay tuned. Thank you for listening. Be the reason that someone feels loved. Happy Father's Day to all you fathers out there. Go Pistons.